everyone, a very warm welcome to all the participants joining us today for this exciting pre-hackathon session at Hackora. We are super thrilled to see your energy, enthusiasm as we gear up for our amazing hackathon journey together. Today's session is all about preparing you with the right tools and mindset so you can build the innovative and impactful solutions during our hackathon. And to guide us, we have with us a very special guest, Pankaj Rai. Pankaj is a Google developer expert in AI, Android, and Firebase. He is an experienced Android developer who has worked extensively with AR, machine learning, and generative AI. We are truly lucky to have him here with us today. So today, Pankaj will be taking us through the super valuable session on rapid prototyping with Android, Firebase, and Gen AI for hackathons. So as you all know, during hackathons, the time is limited, and the key is to turn your ideas into working prototypes quickly. And that's exactly what this session will help you with learning how to leverage Android, Firebase, and Gen AI to accelerate your hackathon journey. So, without further delay, let's dive right into the stage. Pankaj, the stage is all yours.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. Good evening, everyone. I'm Pankaj Rai, as announced earlier. I'm a GD for Android, Firebase, and AI. Well, today I'm going to talk about something which is very interesting if you are going to participate in a hackathon. And don't think this that it's just helpful only for hackathon, but instead this can be helpful for you to create the final year projects, to build something innovative as a startup, because towards vibe coding is something which we all are going. And if you haven't heard of vibe coding, then in this session you'll not just hear about vibe coding, but also you'll see how to get started for production grade stuff also using vibe coding. So this session is about not just for the tech guys, but also those who are feeling that I should get into design or backend development, something as such. So there's something for everyone. So let's get started. The first thing is AI for Android. Well, in entire session, I'm going to cover about the AI itself, but in different flavors. First, we'll see AI for Android. Then we'll see AI in Android Studio. And finally, we'll see something very, very exciting with respect to vibe coding with Firebase Studio. So let's get started with AI for Android first. Well, when I talk about AI for Android, what do I basically mean? Is it like, can I create application which leverage AI, especially generative AI? Or is it like I have something inbuilt which I can leverage quickly to get started? Well, it's not a hidden thing that AI is everywhere. And it's obvious case that if you have to write a lot of code and if things are very complex, then it's not going to succeed. So Google has taken enough care about these things, and they have provided a very good packages which we can use, where we have to write very little amount of code, and majority of the things will be taken care behind the scene. And first thing in this is Gemini Nano. Well, if anyone have heard of this Gemini Nano, then this is a very lightweight model. You can consider this as a small language model, and this model resides right within your mobile. That makes a very exciting stuff for you, because now instead of paying the cost for every generative AI features, which is the case with other cloud-based models, you can leverage Gemini Nano and use it any number of times free of cost, because it works without internet. So latency is always something which is going to be less, and privacy will be at its core. But can I get started with Gemini Nano directly, or I need to package something in my application alone? Well, nothing as such. If you see this architecture, then Gemini Nano will be the part of Android OS itself. So it's a part of AI core package which resides in your own mobile as a part of OS. But again, because this requires good computation power too, it's very obvious case that any generative capabilities, whether it's from a small model or from a large model, it requires good computation power. And this is where this is limited to a certain a set of devices like Gemini, that Pixel 8 Pro or 9, even 10. 10 extensively uses Gemini, that Nano SDK. So what happens is this: you have the application, you directly call the Gemini Nano APIs, the packaging will provide you those APIs. You hit those APIs, eventually it's going to run the Gemini Nano model, and you'll directly get the response back in your SDK. So it's not like you are downloading one version of it and then you need to manage it from your side. This is something which is managed for you automatically by the Google. So behind the scene, it uses TPU. So if anyone have used Pixel phones, especially Pixel 9, Pixel 10, and Pixel 1, 2, you may see good amount of differences just in traditional usage also. The main difference is coming through its CPU, which is nothing but the TPU in the Pixel phones. TPU provides the extensive processing capability which is required by these big models and the small models too. We have multiple variants to this, and we'll see those stuffs also soon. That is one of the reasons that why it is not available to older devices, because it requires good processing capability which comes with TPU. And 8 Pro, Pixel 9, Pixel 10, they have those TPUs which is required to run this model effectively. So now, if I want to get started for my hackathon or for my project, then how can I get started with Gemini Nano? As I said earlier, things are pretty much straightforward. Complexity level is reduced to such an extent that it is as simple as a plug and play component. You just get started with certain amount of code and you get the features inbuilt for your application. But for that also we need certain SDK, because Gemini Nano, even though it's part of Android OS, you cannot directly communicate with it. You need a bridge. Generally, with web APIs, we have APIs, the REST client APIs through which we hit the server. In a similar fashion, if you consider AI code as your server sitting in your mobile, if you want to communicate with it, you need some bridging. So, who can provide that bridge? Well, MLKit provides that. If you have heard of MLKit before, then MLKit is a package solution for on device machine learning, which is available for Android and iOS. And now, with generative AI capabilities, you also have the Gemini Nano features with MLKit Gen AI APIs. Out of the box, it supports summarization, proofreading, rewrite, and image description. More capabilities may be added soon, but these are something which is already available. So, if your use case falls to any one of these four categories, you can leverage Gemini Nano capabilities using MLKit Gen AI APIs. The amount of code which you have to write is hardly 5 to 10 lines of code. So the simplicity has reduced to this much extent that you just write a very little amount of code and behind the scene everything will be taken care for you. But sometimes things may not be this much simple also, because say if I'm participating in a hackathon and if everyone have the access to these four capabilities, then anyone can build the same thing which I'm building. Say I can create a package solution where the overall target is someone can give me a paragraph and I can summarize it. But as these APIs are available to everyone, then anyone else can also build this solution. So what's going to be the unique for me? Well, for certain cases where you want advanced capabilities, because these four capabilities are just like plug and play. You ask for it, you get it. But if you want your own custom solution, you also want to have a different model than what Gemini Nano uses, then you can take advantage of MediaPipe LLM inference. Recently, Google has renamed it to Google AI Edge SDK. AI Edge, as the name indicates, this SDK is for the edge, nothing but the mobile. So using this SDK, you can create a solution for even web applications also. You can get started for Android. You have to download the model, and you can download Gemini Nano model. The Gemini 3N model is one of the most popular models which supports multimodality. So you can download it, feed this as an input because it requires you to provide model now as you are doing the custom solution, and thereafter you create your own solution whatever is required. You are no longer limited to only four capability of summarization, proofreading, rewrite, and image description. Instead, you can go beyond these capabilities by using the AI Edge SDK. The best thing is that because it is available for web also, so if you are creating your own website and you do not want to pay the charges for the web APIs, but you also want to offer the capability free of cost to your end user, then this can be a one-stop solution. Because as I said, the model is in the device. So whether you use it one time or a million times, that's not going to cost you anything. The only cost here is the hosting charges because you have to keep this model somewhere and download on the fly. So what benefits do I get? As I said earlier, the prime benefits to this is privacy, offline, and low cost or no cost. Privacy, as usual, because the data from the user device is never leaving the phone or the browser. So this is something like number one privacy concern what user can have, especially in terms of banking or the photographs, the audio recordings. So these are certain things where people are very concerned about the privacy. Now, when you bring such capabilities to the device, you can assure them that their data is secure because it is never leaving their device. Offline capabilities, because this model is already downloaded, so it's an obvious case that you need not have to download it once again. And in case if you're using the Gemini Nano with ML Kit, it's absolutely no cost. But in case if you go with AI Edge SDK, then you have to incur the charges of providing the model somewhere so that you can download it on the fly for the user devices. Now, what we can create using this? The one thing can be a talkback. Now, just think of this case for the accessibility front. Not many person have a good vision. So by using this type of model which is running on the device, you can create a solution where seeing through the live camera feed, it can talk back and give the information to the user that what's there in front of them. Not just for this, even if someone is writing something, you can again make it like announce for the user. So it's like you can have an assistant sitting in the phone for the user, and your model is going to process this right on the device so as to make this real time. So it's not like a person is walking, he has walked few miles, and then it says that I've seen something in the background. Things are very fast because of the TPU. Now, Pixel also have this capability in the phone where it can record your audio conversation when you're talking to someone and can give you a summary. Well, it's an obvious case that you have to give the permission for it to record the conversation. Once you give the permission, then it can just do a summarization, which is highly effective for a business calls. Because when you are in conversation with someone, it's really not possible to remember everything. And if you are somewhere in the street, it's again not possible that you can bring out your pen and paper, write down everything. So such kind of capability can really help because it's listening through everything, and then you can rest assured that have your conversation as smooth as possible because there is someone sitting behind the scene to do the summary for you, who is taking the note. Even Gboard is adding this capability to give you the next keyword which you might be typing. So these are just few certain limited use cases, but it's having immense capability. And for the Pixel 10, there's something which is very exciting with Magic Q. Now, what it says is that when you're using your phone, when you're chatting with someone, or when you're doing the conversation, it's listening through everything and then can suggest you back anything which is very relevant to the context. Like here, when a person is asking about the address, your phone already have the address saved. then why should you switch to another application, get the address, and then paste it here? How about something which is intelligent in nature can give you a suggestion that a person might be interested in this particular address, just like a smart suggestion, and then you take the action. Like, for example, a person is asking for address, it has given you one suggestion. If it is right, just tab on it and it will send the message. When you're in a phone conversation, you're asking about a particular time schedule, but your Google Calendar says that you have an appointment with someone else. During the conversation, with a live conversation, it's going to alert you that you already have an appointment at that particular time slot. Now, all this thing is possible only because of the on device model. Because think of the latency. If you have the on cloud model, it's really not practical to have such a high scale solution for the billions of users. Android is used by billions of users, and having a live connection for everyone is going to be very costly. But the smart move played by Google here is, rather than we establishing the connection, how about if we push it back to the user device, because their device is capable enough to handle these things. And this gives lots of benefits to the end user because their data is not leaving, so they can rest assured use this feature as easily as possible with full peace of mind. But again, as I said, these models are quite small. If the weights are small, the parameters are small, it's an obvious case that the performance that you're going to get with this type of model will not be as equivalent to the big models which you have in the cloud. So how about the cloud model? So far, whatever we have seen is all about the on-device capability, which comes free of cost with Gemini Nano using MLKit SDK, and the second one is using the Google AI Edge SDK. But how about now on cloud? So if you have gone to gemini.google.com, when you are in chatting with the model, you are chatting with a cloud-based model. So if I have to bring the same model to my application, then how can I do that? So let's talk specifically about the two models, the Pro and the Flash model. So Pro is something which is very advanced model. The cost is also quite high for Pro as compared to Flash. And this is something which you should use when you want a very powerful reasoning. And your use case is something where you cannot afford the low quality. And Flash is like you get an instant response, the latency is low, but the performance may not be as good as Pro model. So if you can compromise with the quality, but it's not like very diminished quality, like a little bit of it, and you're okay with the pricing also because it's going to cost less, then majority of the time your use case can be fulfilled with the Gemini Flash model. And only in certain cases you may need the Pro model. So if I have to use the Gemini Flash or the Pro model, how can I use in my application? Let's talk about Android. If I want to use the Gemini model, how can I do so? Well, for that, we have an SDK where again, Google has taken a lot of care for the developers. You need not have to write a big bunch of code just to get these features added to your application. Instead, you can get started with as little code as possible using the Firebase AI Logic SDK. It's an SDK offered by Firebase. So you have to create a project on Firebase and then get started with this client-side SDK. For server side, we have Firebase GenKit, which offers a similar capability where you can do all sort of APIs creation for generative AI at server side. But here, let's talk about the client side because we want to build the application as quickly as possible. So by using Firebase AI Logic SDK, I can create the application by adding the generative AI capabilities for my Android, iOS, and web application. And it offers the two developer APIs. Gemini Developer is completely free, the one which we use in gemini.google.com. Another one, which is for the enterprises, is Vertex AI. So it's a similar sort of model, but one is paid, another one is free. So Gemini Developer API is freely available. You need not to register even the credit card. Just create project on Firebase and get started with Developer API by enabling this. And once you take your solution in public, say for example, now you have moved out of hackathon, you are thinking to scale it as a startup, then that's the time where you should not use the Gemini developer APIs. Instead, migrate to the Vertex AI so that it can offer you the better flexibility and the scalability. You will not have the limitations which you will have with Gemini developer APIs with number of hits per minute. In Vertex AI, it's much more extended as compared to the traditional free APIs. Now, let's come back to the code base. So, if I want to get started for my Android application, then how much code I have to write? Well, that's the entire piece of code which you are seeing on the screen. Only by writing this much code, you can add the generative AI features to your application. And the thing which you are seeing as generative backend.google AI, just by changing that Google AI to Vertex AI, you switch between the APIs from developer to Vertex AI based. No need to worry about the API keys. Everything is taken care for you behind the scene. So security is at the core right from the beginning when you use the client-side SDK by Firebase AI logic. And by using the Firebase app check, you can even assure that the API request, which is going from your phone, is a genuine API request. So simple, straightforward concept. With cloud-based, we have Firebase AI Logic. Firebase AI Logic gives you the SDK to get started with the API. You just need to define the name of the model, give the prompt, and then call generate content. Generate content will give you all the content at once. We also have the streaming capability where you will get text by text content, which you need to just append. Similar thing which you'll see on the Gemini or the Chat GPT. So that was about in Android. If I want to add the generative capability, then how can I add those things? But to create Android application, can I use generative AI? Well, it's very weird that I go to say gemini.google.com or the chat GPT, ask my question, get the code, come back to studio and do the copy paste. Do you have something better approach? Well, we have the Gemini in Android Studio also. So it is like a plugin which is available directly with the Android Studio, and you can literally chat with the model. There are multiple modes available in this. You can either chat or there is an agent mode. Chat is similar to what you see with the gemini.google.com. You ask some question and you get the result. The major difference here is that if you go on a browser, it knows nothing about your code base. But when you use Gemini in Android Studio, it knows about the context of your code. And you can select those contexts also. By that way, when it's giving you the answer, it's going to be much more relevant to the code which you have already written. So it's not like a generic piece of code, instead the code which is relevant to the code base which you already have. That's the richness which you get when you use this type of plugin in the IDE itself. So that is about the chat. But what is the agent mode? Well, if you have heard of AI agent, AI agents, they are nothing but the autonomous agents which can do something for the human, a task which they can do. Not just for human, even you can write a script too. So it's like an automation kind of thing. So can you bring that capability here in Android Studio also? Well, with the agent mode, you can do that. You can chat with the model as usual, the way you were doing chat earlier. And once you tell something to be done with respect to your code base, it will read through the file. It will go edit the file also. It can also create the file for you. It can also add the relevant dependencies. And then it will just give you a message that I have done all these things. And by this way, you are just instructing the model what do you want, and rest model will do everything behind the scene for you. And this is not just limited to the IDE, like creating the file, editing the file, writing the traditional piece of code. It can go even beyond this level. With a chat mode, you can give an image which designers might have given to you, and you can directly ask the model that can you create something similar. Now make it as clear as possible that you want to use material 3, you want to use jetpack compose, or any other things which you want to use, and then provide the screenshot of the design. It will try to create as similar design as possible for you without you need to do anything. So it's like earlier designer used to give the design screens, and we as a developer need to sit design each and every component, and thereafter if we get stuck somewhere we can ask the models that what should I do for this particular part. But now it's like we are moving bit forward, and rather than coding those individual pieces also, we are just saying that take the entire screenshot and then give me the entire code what you feel is very relevant to this image. It will give you as near possible code as possible, but again you may need to do certain edit to the code, which you can easily do. If it is like getting the exact piece of thing, then it's pretty much straightforward, but mostly it will give you the near real time, and then just do the edit part. And in case if you are having the prompts, if you often use this thing, then rather than writing prompt each and every time, you can save those prompt in the prompt library, so that you need not to write the prompt every time. Instead you can just access it then and there, because it is there in the prompt library. So you can think of it like a directory which is keep storing all your prompts, and based on the need you can access those prompts. Well, today Android Studio supports all these features, which are quite popular, often used by the developers. And as I said earlier, it's having the chat mode, it's having agent mode. But apart from chat and agent mode, there's also one thing which is very interesting, which is code completion. Well, if you have used IntelliJ IDEA before the LLM era, then you might have seen that it gives you a smart suggestion. Now, what code completion with generative capability does is that rather than just completing one single line, it can understand what you are about to write, and thereafter it can give you multi-line code. Just hit tab and it will write the entire piece of code for you. It's like I'm not going to chat or the agent mode anymore. Instead, I'm completing my code as usual, but behind the scene, generative is listening through every stuff, and then it's giving me a smart suggestion. Are you writing this particular logic? If that is similar to what I'm interested in, I can directly take it up. If it is like partially correct, partially I have to change it, again, it's going to save time for me, because rather than writing all those lines of code, Gemini is writing, and then later on I can edit those things. Even documentation plays a very important role. Your code need to be very well documented, and this is something where Studio can again help you, because Gemini can also write the documentation for you, write Git commit messages. So there are lots of things which Google is adding to the Android Studio, so that developer need not have to spend time on little things. Rather, they can focus on the main aspect of development and offload the side stuff like documenting the code, writing the comments, writing Git messages, all those things for the smart assistant, which is sitting right in the Android Studio. Now, as we move towards the next section, which is vibe coding, so what has changed over the year? That's something which is important for us to know. So far, we have seen for Android, and now we are going to see something for the web. Well, for Android, things were pretty different because the platform is different. For web, again, it's something where you have an immense capability, because for web, you need not have to ask user to install the application. You can just create it, and then make it available to anyone with a simple URL. So what are the changes which has happened over the year? Well, in the past, building application was very time consuming, and especially when you are thinking from a hackathon perspective, time is very crucial because you get a very limited time. Few of the hackathons run just for a day, few runs for an hour, few for a month. But again, you have a time limit for everything. You do not have an unlimited amount of time. And same is true for us as a developer. When we get a requirement, it also comes with a tagline of the total timeline which we have, and we need to deliver it within that time. But development is not that straightforward. It need to go through multiple cycles. With hackathon, you can bypass these things because you're developing only for a certain cause. But if you want to take it forward, then you need to make it a mature product, and then it need to go through this cycle. Well, in engineering classes, you might have seen this, the development life cycles. So every cycle, ranging from code till the build, test, release, monitor, or operate, there are certain loopholes in every cycle which you always need to keep on monitoring. It's not the case that you have written the code and your job is done. When you write the code, if you try to build, you may get an error. The build might not be successful. Again, rewrite, rework on it, test your product. Once you create it, release it to public. Once you release it to public, then you'll see the real testing, because your end users are going to use it based on their wish. So far you are testing based on your wish, but now with the end user, it's limitless, and they're going to test each and every capability which you can offer to them. Based on your monitoring, again operate, and the cycle continues. And this was really very time consuming, especially for the professional developers. And this was the true cases for so many years. Developers used to spend a lot of time in one of those cycles or multiple cycles, especially when you grow, when you get much more responses. Then it's not like you can just focus on one cycle, but there will be multiple stuff which you need to focus on. And when it comes for even a hackathon, if we say, then the moment you get started, and especially for the hackathon, the first thing which comes is like, what technology stack should I choose? Whether I should go for Android, I should go for web, I should go for iOS. Every platform have their own advantages and disadvantages. When it comes for Android, it's limited to the Android ecosystem. iOS, limited to iOS ecosystem. For web, it is available to so many, but towards the end, you have to provide the capability that your end user should able to use your product. How do they know the website? How do they know the web link? For this mobile platform, you have a Play Store, App Store, where user can go search, your app may come there. When it comes for Google, like like the website, and you, if a person go do a Google search, then in order to come as a search result, you need to go through the SEO. It's again a time consuming stuff. So there are lots of things which comes in, like what is the technology stack which I should use, what are my dependencies, whether it's going to be like secure, scalable, performant, especially if you are developing a product right from the beginning by thinking something very high for the user base, not just for building for a hackathon, but also thinking from perspective of taking it forward to create a startup. Then the security, scalability, performance, these are the key things which should be there right from the beginning. You cannot get these things added once you have created the product. And these are just few of the questions. There are lots of things which will just keep on coming. Until now, without LLM, it's the developer responsibilities to answer these things, get the things sorted out. There used to be a team who handle everything, and then we move forward. And this was really something which was very painful, not just time consuming, but also the painful stuff too, because it's an obvious case. Not everyone knows everything. Every human have a limitation. LLM nowadays can give you a capability where you need not to think that I don't know about this particular stuff. How can I tell you anything on this particular domain? LLM nowadays give you that capability, but earlier we were not having those things. So all these cycles which we have seen so far, which is like sort of broken in the stuff, because there are lots of things which goes on with LLM, we can hit each of them effectively. The second thing is like the development ecosystem. It's not the case even in the hackathons that only one person code, the rest of the person see. Everyone have to contribute because you need to get the things as fast as possible. And same is true when you join an organization, that the software development is not just a one single person work. It's done by a group of individuals in different geographies, different time zones. We have a versioning system through which we push our code. And this decentralized approach really helped to accelerate the development. And if we see, in olden days, it was only available to the web ecosystem. But nowadays, we have multiple form factors too. So it's not just like you're creating product which only works for one ecosystem, like for the web application also. You cannot just create an application which works only and only in browser. You have to make it mobile optimized version also, so that those users who are using your website from mobile, they should see it in a proper version. It's not like things are moving here and there. And same thing goes on for other form factors also. There are multiple things which has come in now. And along with this, you also need to spend time. You really cannot spend time by doing all this development for each and every ecosystem. There is a timeline for everything. You also have to have your own personal time too. And it's a part of our job. It's all connected. Now, can AI help in all these things? Well, today AI assistants are really changing the way we create applications, not just for the personal application, but even companies are using these big models to make their developers highly efficient. So this was the older days. Like if you see developer, those who used to write code by using the AI assistant powered IDEs, like IntelliJ IDEA or the Android Studio. They are the AI powered IDEs, and little to no AI stuff. In the middle, it's like we have both. Developers are going to the generative models, they are using the plugins, asking question, generative is giving them the answer, and then they are deciding what to do. The future set, when AI agents becomes much more mature, and one stuff which you have seen earlier with agent mode in Android Studio, the things will change, where developers will not even just ask something, get the code, copy and paste. Rather, they'll just instruct the AI and they'll be the supervisor. AI will do everything for them, like writing the code, creating file, deleting files, adding dependencies, managing the code base. And human developer will be like the supervisor who knows the stuff and supervising if AI is doing the job properly or not. And Gartner, who is like one of the biggest company who do the analytics part, based on them, by 2028, 75% of the enterprise software engineers will use AI code assistant. So that's something which is very big. But do any big companies so far is using this capability? Well, the Google itself. Google is known for its quality. They are known for their engineers. And more than a quarter of the new code which Google is generating, they are powered by AI. And the engineers are reviewing those things and accepting whether it's correct or not. Now think of this case, that how fast the speed could be now. Instead of making developers to sit, design for the scale, now they need to think in a way which is like what I can create, which is unique for the user, helpful for the user, and I can let the AI to do this job, and I as a developer is going to review those things. Is it correct or not? And that is what AI is doing. AI is truly accelerating the way we as a developer used to create product. But even with all these things, do we still have something to do better? What we have seen so far is that we are covering the world. So because we are not just limiting ourselves to one form factor, we are going to multiple form factor. The ecosystem is diverse. Multiple developers from multiple geographies, they are coming, collaborating together to create a product. We have also seen the things are very integrated in nature. Mobile applications works well on different form factors like the tablet. The web applications works well on the browser, in Android, iOS, or any other environment. The ecosystem is also quite integrated, like with the sign-in integration which we have. If you have a Google account, you can sign in across the devices. So we are covering world. The things are integrated with assistive tools that we have today, with the plugins. We also have the AI power with us. So what else could be needed now? Well, we are also having a good collaborative tool. If you haven't used such capability, then there are certain tools which we have which can also let you to do live coding together. But even though if we just take that live coding together, we just have a version control also, then also we can think of like we are doing a collaborative effort. So if you think from a very broader perspective, we are covering everything. We have tools for each and everything. So what else can we do better now? Well, today things are changing very fast. The prototypes, development, the time to market, all these things need to be as fast as possible. Those were the days when it's like, I have some idea, I need to search the developers. They'll take 3 months, 6 months to get my stuff implemented, and then I can release my first version. Now we have this. Well, we have Firebase Studio. Firebase Studio is created just for this. The earlier name of this was Project IDX. So it's an environment where you can get something very similar experience to what you see with VS Code. So it's like a VS Code type of environment, but sitting on the cloud. So it's not like you need to download the dependencies and other things in your local machine. Rather, just open the Firebase Studio. You see the IDX environment in the cloud, and you can just get started with your product development without need to worry about any setup, dependencies, and all those stuffs. And once you create the project, you can also share with your friends, the peer developers. They all can come together and collaborate together. The best part is that, say, if I create one project and I'm using the VS Code, then all the dependencies which I have downloaded in my local machine, when another developer try to set up the same thing in his machine, he also need to download and set up all these things once again. And that's a limitation which you can't do anything because it's local setup. But if you just switch to a web version, the cloud version, then once you have set up the dependencies, the other developers can directly come and collaborate. They need not to worry about setting up the dependencies and all those stuffs which you need to do in your local machine. So that was the traditional stuff which Studio supports right from the beginning. What has changed now? Well, now we have the AI inbuilt in Studio. What do I mean by this is, say you're doing a traditional development, just like the way we have seen for in Android Studio. you have a plugin for the Gemini where we can chat with the model, get this stuff done. Similar capability you get here in the Firebase Studio also. We have the Gemini inbuilt where you can chat with the Gemini model. There is an agent mode who can do the stuff on your behalf, and it knows the context because it is seeing through your files. And you can use this for multiple developments, not just for the web development. You can also do the backend development. Even for the mobile, Android Studio is available through this. So this was like traditional stuff. But what is changing with respect to Studio? The one which I was talking about, vibe coding. Well, there is a mode called as the AI centric mode, which is nothing but the prototyper. The AI centric view is all about the prototyper, where you have entire preview at one side and chat panel on the other side. You just have to chat with the model. Based on the conversation, it will understand what are your requirements. It will edit the files, create new files, delete the files, all sort of operations it will do for you. It will write the code for you and then show you the preview. Thereafter, you can instruct the model, is this something which you really want, or you want certain modifications to this? If you need certain modification, then just keep chatting. The best part here is that you need not have to learn prompt engineering, because there's a lot of things which is taken behind the scene for you. So it's not like I have a window, but I haven't done my prompt engineering course. So how can I make it like an effective use for me? With a very little knowledge on how effectively you can ask with the Gemini model or any LLM models, like by giving as precise information as possible, you can get started with this. And because it is like doing a to and fro communication with you, so if anything goes wrong, you just have to instruct again that no, I don't want in this particular way, instead I want in that particular way. And thereafter Gemini will do its work once again. It will know the entire history so far, whatever you have chatted through. So it maintains that context also, and thereafter it will do the work for you. So every communication that you do goes with a context which comes right from the beginning, whatever conversation which you had. So even if you are asking for a change in a one particular screen, but similar implementation is there in another screen, then Gemini, from its own side, it will tell you that I've seen this similar implementation on the other file also, and I'm going to change in that place too. So that you need not to worry about multiple places. Rather, you focus on what do you really want. Focus on the product development. That's it. And then again, it's something which is really not practical, that each and everything this prototyper will do for you. It can do majority of things, but for certain things, say it's getting stuck. And it's a very simple thing which you do not want model to get into this. Then can I switch to a code mode where I can see the entire code, what it has written so far? Well, that is what is code centric view. So with a prototyper, which comes very first when you start with Firebase Studio, you are chatting with the model, writing the code, seeing the preview. There's a little icon on the top. When you tap on it, you switch to the code mode, and that code centric view gives you the entire file. You can literally see the files which Gemini has written for you. You can also change those things, and that also shows you the preview. So again, in order to see the preview, you do not have to come back to the prototyper. Preview is available in all the places. So the moment you're doing the changes, you'll immediately see the preview. There is a Gemini in the code centric view also. So if you're getting stuck somewhere, you need an assistant to get into this, then you can just open up the chat mode with the Gemini, interact with it. If you're getting confused, where should I do the changes, then toggle it to the agent mode and let the Gemini in the code centric view to operate on your code. So there's something for both. AI centric view is a place where you do not see the code, You just chat with a model and you see the preview only. With code centric, you get full command. You can see the code, you can edit the code. If you get stuck somewhere, there is a Gemini who can assist you to move forward. So, this is what is with respect to the vibe coding. Today is really not the day where you can stuck with the idea, because if you're getting stuck with the idea, there's someone who is using this type of tool, will launch in the market as early as possible. So it's all about the idea which you have, gather the points, and deliver it as a result by using this type of tools. The first prototype may not be the one which you want to go ahead with. So can we iterate over? Well, Firebase Studio supports that also. You can clone the entire stuff and then act on top of it, so that the code base which you have done in the first prototype remain as it is, and then the next version is like you are developing something on top of it. So just like one simple IDE, not exactly an IDE, but the studio support, where you get the VS Code type of environment, it can do many things for you because of the AI assistant that it have, the live previews, designed for collaborations. Like you can also share with your developers, their friends, and all can collaborate together because it's a cloud based. So it's possible to do that. And with a color code cursor, it will also tell you that who is at which place. And this is extremely helpful when you think from a hackathon perspective, because now all the developers are at a single place, they are collaborating together, and they are not collaborating in the silos. Rather, there is a color coded cursor which shows who is doing what changes. And once you are done with these changes, you want to take this to some other platform. Say, for example, you have your code which you have written already. Now you want to take it forward so that you can do personal development in your local machine. Then you can take this stuff forward in the GitHub, push it to Git, download it in your local machine. And it also supports MCP server. So Firebase Studio supports MCP server. So if there are MCP servers which you want to add, you can just set up those MCP servers. And then when you chat with the Gemini in Prototyper, then it knows about those MCP servers. It can work for you behind the scene and get the things done. Well, any such applications which was created using this. Well, this is one such application which I've created, and it's completely built with Firebase Studio. I come from Android app development background with over 10 years of experience in app ecosystem. And web is like I know the stuff, but only to the basic HTML, CSS. But if someone comes and tell me that can you create an application with React.js or Next.js, then it's like it will take time. But this application is purely using Next.js, using Gemini models with GenKit, and this entire stuff got created using Firebase Studio. And not just created, it is also hosted by Firebase Studio. It's hosted on the Firebase ecosystem by using Firebase app hosting, and it gives you the URL also. So it's like an all-in-one platform where you come with an idea, you prototype it using the prototyper, create the final version of it, and then host it in some environment, and thereafter deliver it to the world. So one single ecosystem which can do all these things for you. This is the power of Firebase Studio, where it lets you to build as quickly as possible. Well, that was all about today's session, where I've talked about Android Studio and Android and the web development using Firebase Studio, it's not just limited to web development. You can also do the backend development too. So it's all about how you do vibe coding and deliver the things as fast as possible. So that was all about today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Pankaj, for such an insightful session. Let's move towards the questions.
Sure.
Yeah, for someone who is a beginner and who wants to try out Gen AI, what would you suggest as the easiest way to get started without getting too deep into ML?
Well, the thing is, when we think of generative AI, majority of the time we think that we need to have a good understanding of the ML, how ML works. But that requirement is only and only for those who are going to create something advanced stuff with LLM. Like, I do not want to use the foundational model, but I want to fine tune it with respect to my data. And that is very limited to only certain individuals. So those individuals need to learn these things. For rest of them, just get started by using the SDKs which we have. We have the SDKs provided by almost all the big companies. When it comes with Google, as I said, we have ML Kit for Gemini Nano. We also have the AI Edge SDK for traditional development. Firebase AI logic, the one which you have seen with hardly 5 lines of code. Yeah, you're adding the generative AI capability to your application. So for majority of the user, what you really need to know is how LLM works. If I give certain type of input, then what is the output which I can expect? Prompt engineering is something which is important for the rest of the individuals. ML aspect, leave it for the professionals only.
Okay. So to get started with Gen AI, we need to focus more on prompt engineering rather than ML.
Correct.
Yeah.
To get started, you just need to focus more on prompt engineering, and you really need not have to do much courses around this.
Yeah.
Even YouTube videos are sufficient, but there is no magic pill which says that this is how it works, because industry is also learning with respect to prompt engineering. The more you use, the better you become. And the best place is gemini.google.com itself. It's a free tool for everyone. And there is also a platform which called AI Studio, aistudio.google.com. So what happens there is that you have an ability to switch between the models. There are various variants available, like the image models, text model. There's nano model also available. So you can just deal with that platform, input your prompt, see how you're getting as an output.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Also, since you have been a part of many hackathons, what do you think separates a winning prototype from the rest of the participants?
Well, what I've seen is that the winning have something very unique for the consumer base. They're not targeting the fancy things, but they are targeting those which are very much relevant for the users. Like, if I have something which is very fascinating stuff, but the end users are like very limited, then that's not going to scale. But on the other way around, if I create something for the larger audience, which is easy for them to use, again, easy is the biggest factor. If you ask them to do a lot of setup, it's not going to work. But if you can make them as simple as possible by taking much more effort on your side and giving a plug and play component for the end user, that you just come and use my product, that's going to scale better. Like, for example, if you see Instagram, in Instagram, even though you have filters, there are lots of things which they offers. The team has developed behind the scene. None of the user need to know about how filter works. I need to download the filter components. They just need to know one thing: download the application and get started. That level of simplicity is required for a winner product as compared to those product which leaves things to the end user, that you do majority of the things, I did my side of development.
Okay. So we should focus more on simple thing and how user has less interact like So the user interacts less with the system, and he just have to do like simple thing to like get started or like to work on.
Yeah, so something like where technology can help user today where they are facing tough time. Like for example, when I talk about an old age person, not many old age person still knows English language in
Yeah.
India. So can AI help them? Well, certainly it can, because it does have a language understanding, and that's going to scale very well provided the user uses it. So but do end user is going to use these things? May or may not be. So that's why, even though the problem is simple, scalability will be a big factor, because in India, you'll not see many old age person to use certain application just for this work. So even though the idea is good, but when it comes for the usability, it may not scale very well. But if you could attract the other way around with the on device model itself, where you say that you don't have to install any application, you are using the product like Android itself, and when someone is talking in some other language, I'll automatically do the conversion for you. You just on this particular feature by click on a button. Now this is something which are two different flavors. One where you're asking them that can you go to Play Store, download my application will do this work for you. Maybe a young generation can adopt this. Older generation, it's tough. But other way around, if you could give a feature that you need not do anything, I've simplified everything for you, just click on a button and my application will work for you behind the scene, then that's going to scale very well. So something which is simple in a nature, where not like very simple stuff like converting one language to other language will work in the hackathons, but how you stitch it to the problem statement.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Noted. Like for next hackathon. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So my next question is like hackathons can feel a bit overwhelming for beginners. So what's the first like mindset shift participants should have like before they start building?
Well, what I've seen is that many person are quite afraid of hackathon, and they're
Yeah.
afraid of one fact that whether my idea will get selected or not. The second fear factor which I've seen is that I have a very great idea. If I take to hackathon, if it doesn't scale forward, if I do not win, if someone steal my idea and they build something else, then what? Well, idea is not something which can pay you. Idea is just about 20%. Rest 80% is the way you implement. So today if someone have an idea that I want to go to moon, that's just an idea. And even though if you are taking this forward, you're making this like publicly available that I have an idea to go to moon, what other person can do at max? They can think of how this is possible, how to get the things done. So what is most important is to save that aspect of the implementation, not the idea. The way you're going to create, that's going to make a difference. So this is where those who are getting started, the first thing is like they need not to worry about the result. Process is more important than result, because today you may not win, but while you are participating it, you'll see where your idea was standing versus the one who won the hackathon. And then rather than taking it personally that my idea is super duper good but this person have very weird idea, how do this person can win, think of other way around, that what was the theme of the hackathon. With respect to the theme, you will always see that winner has something which is very very correlated with the theme of the hackathon. So it cannot be a case that I'm going to a hackathon for say a Google Gemini hackathons. I use Chat GPT and I say that I've created something very unique for the user, because the theme there is Gemini. So every hackathon comes with a theme. Indian government also runs multiple hackathon, especially for the startups also they are doing. They also give you certain themes that your prototype, the idea should be relevant to these particular themes. The second thing that comes as a filter point is, to that theme, whatever idea which you are pitching, can it be used by mass? Can it scale forward? If the answer is yes, then next thing comes is how easy and how quick it is. If it is costly, like for example today, if so Google is giving that Gemini free of cost to students. Tomorrow if they say that we are making it like 10,000 per month, then the the subscription will immediately come down. So they're not going to do such things, what I believe. So this is what the intelligence comes in, that if you are creating some certain product, to what extent it is scalable, and if it is scalable also, what is the cost which end user has to pay. If it is very less, it's going to scale forward. If it is very high, as I said, for the Gemini, it's free of cost for the students, you'll suddenly see a major subscription growth. But if they would have done the other way around of increasing the cost, then this would have reduced. So it's very important to see what big companies are doing and learn through them, which you can adopt in the hackathons, in your own personal development also.
Okay. Yeah, and so like when we are working under a deadline during a hackathon, so what should be the fastest way to decide like which feature should we build first?
Well, the first and foremost feature is whatever is your prime product. The rest of the byproducts can be created later on also. The fancy stuff can be done later on also. But if your key component itself is not ready, then it can't scale. So whatever is your prime idea, that need to get created as early as possible. The rest of all the fancy stuff can be done later on.
Okay. Okay, got it. Yeah. So last question for today, like if you are participating in a hackathon hack aura, like what kind of project would you personally build?
Well, the one which I've created, the one which I was showing the demo link,
Yeah.
I would have created something similar.
Okay.
Well, what it does is that it's fashion tech stuff where it
Okay.
lets user to upload their pic, and there is a stylist, AI powered stylist, who help the end user to identify that how they can enhance their look. And if you see
Okay.
this segment, then this is something where not just in India, but it's common across the world. Everyone want to look good, and majority of the time, the big guys, the celebrities, they have this stylist with them who knows how to enhance their look. But can the normal user afford them? Well, maybe, but it's be like waste of money for them, because just for enhancing their look, they cannot spend good amount of money. But can AI help them? Well, certainly with the capabilities that we have with the vision model, it can, and that is where things can turn out. So that is one such thing. And another one which I have seen is that people, especially the student community, they really get stuck quite easily with respect to so many options which they have. If I being a student, I need to be like, where in which path should I go? I should go in backend development, front end development, Android, iOS. Generative is coming, so is it going to kill the stuff what I know very well? But they do not have someone to guide them. There are multiple mentorship platform which you might have seen, which cost money, and not every person is willing to pay the money upfront. Can generative help them? Well, for that also I've created an application. Again, it is with Firebase Studio itself, which is anantward.web.app. What it does is that it lets user to ask a question. They can initiate a mentorship session, AI mentorship, and AI is going to guide them that what would be the correct path for them based on their own knowledge, the experience, and where they want to see themselves in future. So the thing which human was doing and charging money for this, but at the end you do not know with whomever you are talking, if that person is really capable enough to give that advice or not, but still you are paying the money. How about AI, who is having the world knowledge, can do this job for you, which can really outperform so many individuals, not all the individuals, because those who really have the industry experience, AI may not able to outperform them, but for majority of them, AI can easily outperform and give you a proper direction that in which path you should go forward. That's one of the most common question which I get when I take a session, the public session for the student, that there are lots of things going on in the market. I'm in my third year, fourth year, or certain guys like I'm in my first year. I'm not sure in which direction I should go forward. There are lots of things in the market. I'm good in multiple technology, but I need to go ahead with one particular technology. Is market good for that particular thing? But with the introduction of LLM, the things has changed drastically. Not just for the students, not just for the freshers, even for the professionals. Everyone is learning, and this IT field is all about learning. It's not like I have 10 years, 20 years of experience, I can rely on my experience, I can just sit and relax. Every time something new comes up, you need to learn through it, you need to get the mastery over it, and then think that how well you can utilize those things for effective development. Like in few of the hackathons, few of the sessions, you will also see few of the individual who will say like, whatever idea which I have, Gemini, big LLM already have this capability, why should I create? The thing is like, when you create a product, you get a hands-on experience. That experience is valuable. So even though if Gemini offers certain things, if you are also creating something similar also, the experience which you are gaining, that will be valuable, because you already have something which you already know that Gemini does this. Now when it comes to your product, can you see the quality of it? If Gemini is outperforming, then think of how you can increase your product quality, and by this way things can move forward. So it's not like AI is replacing the developers, but it's all about developers who are not doing anything with respect to the LLM. They are getting replaced. So it's not
Yeah.
like do AI can replace me. The question is other way around. What do I'm doing so that AI will not replace me?
Okay. Definitely checking out this demo after the session, and like also for such audience, we have this community to bridge that gap, and that's why we invite like experts like you.
Sure. So that's something which is very exciting, because
Yeah.
uh, especially in terms of student community, who are very much relevant to the academic careers what they have. With academics, the thing which they lack is the professional environment where the industry is moving towards. Academies sometimes say something else, professional world sometimes says completely opposite. Not many time, but sometime it does happen. And with the way industry is moving forward, gaining those exposure will also help them that along with academy, I also need to learn certain things. But again, it's not like academy is something which they can leave, because the
Yeah.
foundation which they are gaining, that is going to be the core of everything. The data structures, the algorithms which they are learning, they need to be very strong in that. Because if you are strong in that, then you are not dependent on LLM. Rather, you can use LLM as an assistive tool, that I know the stuff, but rather than I doing all these things, it will take time for me, you do the stuff for me. So it's like, if I know the graph, I know the tree, data structures, then I know effectively that where I can implement this, and I can directly tell the LLM, use this to create this feature. But if I have literally no information about what is even called as graph, what is called as tree, then I have to depend on LLM that I want to have this feature. Can you guide me? And what is the probability that LLM will guide you with a perfect data structure? It may give you a very naive approach also. So the product quality will come down. So that is why even though with these tools in place, academy knowledge, especially in terms of data structures and algorithm, is still relevant. It's very important, and with this, you can differentiate yourself with any other developer. Like, this IT field is open to everyone. It's not like only CSE graduates should come and do the development. But one advantage CSE graduates does have is they are learning the core foundation, which any other also can learn, but they just miss out because they are the boring stuffs.
Okay. Yeah, that brings us to the end of our pre-hackathon session. A very big thank you once again to Pankaj Rai for sharing his expertise with us today. Yeah, and to all the participants, I hope you are feeling inspired and ready to build something amazing, like at our Hackora. Also, remember, hackathons are all about learning, experimenting, and creating together. So, give it your best shot, collaborate with your teammates, and most importantly, have fun. See you all at the hackathon. Until then, keep building, keep learning, and stay curious. Thank you.
Thank you.